Hello friends, welcome back or welcome to my channel. My name is Catherine and I hope that you are well, and in today's video I would like to share with you my best and worst moments of 2022 travel-wise. I know I kind of stole this idea from Hey Nadine, but I absolutely love this concept. I think even if you don't travel, it's really cool to look back and see your best and worst moments and really see that you actually have a lot of good days in your life. And so yeah, I think it's such a cool idea to remember to watch back after some years and to remember moments that you maybe would have otherwise forgotten. So without further ado, let's get started. Best weekend getaway to Helsinki with my mom. This was the first trip in 2 years during COVID, and so this felt like honey. It seriously was such a great weekend. I gifted my mom plane tickets and hotel, and we split food when we were in Helsinki, so it was such a great mother-daughter time. I absolutely loved it. Finland was a new country for both of us, so it was a little bit scary because we didn't know anything, but it was absolutely phenomenal and I would love to return to Finland one day. Worst. So when I was in Kotor, I was hiking this ladder of Kotor. It's a very famous hike and you can pay and go up the ladder, but I decided not to pay and hike up the mountain. And on the way up, I met this Croatian guy and we hiked up to the mountain, to the top of the mountain, which wasn't actually the ladder, the window that you climb through. But then on the way down, we turned and he showed me where the window is, and when we were hiking up, like we got through the window and we were hiking up on the steps, I was feeling so nauseous. That morning I did have breakfast, but I unfortunately didn't think of bringing any snacks with me, and I ran out of water, and when my sugar drops I feel very nauseous. So I should know that, and I should prepare for that, but for some reason I didn't, and I felt so bad. Thankfully he had some cranberries, so he gave them to me and I felt a lot better and I could survive to get to my hostel. Best. So at the beginning of May, me, my aunt and my uncle went to Rhodes, Greece. We spent an entire week there. It was absolutely amazing. It felt like the first proper vacation after COVID, and I absolutely loved visiting very cool places in Rhodes and exploring a little bit more of Greece, because before that I've only visited Crete, but now I can say that I've visited 2 Greek islands and there's so much more to explore. Worst. So when we were in Rhodes, we went to this Seven Springs waterfall park place, whatever, I don't know what it's called, but you basically go by bus to the Seven Springs waterfall, and nearby, it's actually like 40 minutes away, is this little town with beach, and we started walking, and before that I had a blister, and so my feet were hurting so bad, and in the Seven Springs we actually hiked up the mountain as well, so I was in so much pain, and we walked to this town and it was like so deserted and we were all so tired and desperate and starving, so we had our lunch, a really amazing lunch though, and then we decided to go back, but unfortunately there is no real bus stop, so we didn't know where the bus would stop and what time, and so we saw some buses go by but we didn't know if it goes to Rhodes town or not, and so we ended up going all the way to highway again, which took us another 40-ish minutes, and we were so exhausted, like I seriously cannot. Best. Going to Belarus and visiting my grandma, my uncle, and some other relatives. I went there alone with my dad, and so it was such a great time actually to be back in Belarus in the countryside, to be back with the nature and disconnected from the internet and from the outside world. And if you don't know, there are some bad things happening in Belarus, so we didn't go to Belarus due to that kind of like civil war situation plus COVID, and so we didn't go there for like 3 years. And this year finally we could go, and it was such a beautiful time. Worst. So on the way back from Belarus, we waited on the borders for 12 hours. That was actually the longest border crossing in my entire life. So we've had border crossing experiences where we would wait for 5-6 hours, but it would like be both of the borders. And I thought that's a long time until this year we get to the border, and we actually went pretty early. We left at like 6 in the morning. We left my grandma's village, and it's about 100 kilometers from the borders. So before 8 we were on the border, and there's this place that you have to wait, and then like they put you in some electronic database or something, and then you go on the line and you actually get to cross the borders, and they check you, they check your documents and everything. And we were waiting there for so long together with all of the lorries and everyone, and I don't know why did it take so long. And thankfully there were toilets. There were like these bio toilets. Like I mean, it was the grossest experience ever. Shit was everywhere. Like it was so gross. I can't even remember, and I don't have any footage from this because I wasn't filming anything. I wasn't like, I just wanted to get to Lithuania, to European Union, and it took so long. And then we got to this border control. Finally we got to the border control. They checked our passports, and she's like, did you pay the tax for exiting Belarus? And we are not like, no, we didn't know we have to pay. We didn't know, nobody told us. And she's like, okay, leave your car and go to this booth and you have to pay there. And we get there, and it turns out she is like on a 15-minute break, and we have to wait, and it's just so miserable. And then we get out of Belarus, but Lithuanians don't let us in, so we stay there for 2 more hours. And so it was like we literally stayed in the borders for 12 hours, and we were home at like 2 in the morning. It was the most miserable day of the year, honestly, guys. Best. Visiting my friend in Albania, visiting her family, staying with her family for 4 to 5 days. We partied so much. We attended her cousin's wedding. It was so beautiful. It was such a great time. I loved meeting her mom and dad and her siblings. Her sister and brother are absolutely amazing. They're so funny, and they made me feel so welcome, and it was just such a great thing to finally meet her again after 3 years, I would say 3 years of separation, because the last time we saw each other was January 2019 when she came to visit me before she left Vilnius to go back to Albania. So yeah, it was a great time. Worst. So when I was in Albania traveling with my friend, her friend actually was supposed to take us to dinner, but she said, oh, you have to start walking towards the center because Saranda is very busy in the evening. And so we start walking, and she calls us and tells us, okay, these 2 Albanian American guys will pick you up and drive you to the restaurant. But it actually turned out to be a bar, and we obviously skipped dinner because we thought we were gonna have dinner with my friend's friend, and so we were starving. And as the guys were driving us, the 2 most arrogant and ignorant people I've ever met. Like, I seriously cannot fathom how ignorant Americans can be. I never thought people can be like this, and trust me, I've met a lot of Americans and a lot of Canadians, and they are all amazing people. I'm not saying anything, and I'm like, if you're European immigrant, you shouldn't be like that. Like, one question that he asked, we started talking about what I've learned in the past and how me and the Albanian friend met. And so I tell him like, oh yeah, I was learning Lithuanian, and I was like, I was in this like Latvian Lithuanian program. And he's like, why did you study Latvian and Lithuanian when you could study English? And I'm like, guy, Latvian is like my native language. How could I choose not to study it? You know, it was just like very arrogant, and I was very tired, and I was so sleep deprived, and it was just like, it was such a miserable experience, to be honest. Best. Hiking Valbona to Teth. I absolutely loved hiking Valbona to Teth. I actually wasn't planning because my friend said, oh, it's really expensive, it's gonna cost you more than 100 euros. But then as I was in Montenegro, laying on the beach, I was like, you know what, I only live once and I don't know when's the next time I'm gonna be in Valbona. And so I decided to hike Valbona to Teth, and it was absolutely amazing. It was one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. It was challenging and difficult, but it was so worth it. I just cannot express how beautiful that place is. Worst. So as I was hiking down from Valbona Pass, it got very sandy and there were not many rocks there, and I was like walking and I slipped multiple times, but everything was okay. And then I get down and like I go down and I fall, and I can feel how I have injured my ankle. I genuinely thought I had sprained it, and actually when I got to my accommodation, I lay down for a couple hours to relax, you know, and when I get up to get to dinner, I just couldn't walk, and I genuinely thought I had sprained my ankle. And I was so panicked because a couple days later I was supposed to attend my friend's cousin's wedding, and so I was like, how am I gonna dance? How am I gonna like walk? Like it's gonna be ruined, like all the vacations, like no. But thankfully everything is okay and everything is good in the end, but that moment I was so stressed and scared. Best. Visiting Lake Bled and Postojna caves was absolutely amazing. Lake Bled was on my bucket list for so long, for as long as I can remember, and it was absolutely amazing. It was more than I expected. It was so beautiful. And then I also visited Postojna caves, and it was so beautiful. I actually didn't even know Postojna caves existed up until a few weeks before my trip, and I am so glad that I did that day trip, that I had a chance to do it. It was so beautiful. Worst. So when I was in Austria getting back home, I didn't have enough warm clothes, and I went out and I felt like it was okay after, you know, after Balkan hot weather. It was refreshing, it was nice, but then it got really windy and it got cold. And so towards the evening, as I was laying in my hostel, I realized how my throat is getting scratchy, and so I started to feel a little bit worse and worse every moment. And then I get back home, and I don't know if I brought COVID back home or if it was someone from my family, but basically my brother and my mom had COVID, and I actually didn't check, so I don't know if I had COVID. Maybe that was COVID, maybe that was a simple cold. But after that, I could not get better for 2 whole months. I was coughing so bad, like I would start coughing and I couldn't stop for like half an hour, and my nose was so stuffed, and it was just so horrible, and I had to go to work. I couldn't take a sick list, and it was absolutely horrible. So that last day in Vienna, it ruined my next 2 months. So yeah. And one of the absolute best moments of this year was actually not a travel moment, it was bungee jumping. So earlier this year, I told my mom that I would love to receive bungee jumping as a gift. We have this company called Sigulda Adventures that do all kinds of crazy activities in the town of Sigulda, and my parents actually gifted me the bungee jump, and I was very scared and nauseous, and like, but then it was the best moment of my life. It was seriously so much fun, despite the fact that I lost my shoe in the river, but it was so much fun. I could do it 10 more times. It was amazing. I absolutely loved it. Okay, and the last experience, I would call it interesting because I don't know where to put it. It wasn't best and it wasn't worst. It was like interesting. So visiting concentration camp in Niš was an interesting experience. It was heartbreaking. It was thought-provoking. It was like I felt all of these emotions inside of me and how horrible that time was. And yeah, it was definitely interesting. So if you have a chance to go to concentration camp, definitely take this chance. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it was interesting. Comment down below what some of your best and worst moments of 2022 were. And yeah, don't forget to subscribe and like this video. And if you feel like supporting me, there is also a link to buy me a coffee, and there's also a link to my Instagram and TikTok. And so yeah, I will see you very soon. Bye!